Hello, Facebook fans and YouTube fans of DX Engineering. I'm Tim, K3LR, and with me today is a special guest. It's John, N9UPC from Yaesu. This is the Manufacturer Showcase. We do this every Thursday afternoon at 2:30 Eastern Time. That's 18:30 Zulu. And this is our third week of doing this, and we're thrilled to have John on today with us. John, thanks very much for being here.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
And so why don't you just give us a little bit of information about what is going on at Yaesu, and certainly the audience, if they have questions for John, we will be taking your questions in the comments area. So fill up the chat room with questions and we will get those to John. So how are things going at Yaesu, John?
They're going good. We obviously are staying busy. Obviously, much like many other businesses and stuff, we are obviously impacted by the COVID-19 situation. So we are taking safety precautions there. And with that, it has actually maybe slowed a little bit for getting some stuff done, answering emails, technical support, that kind of thing like that. But we are staying, very busy right now. And it's actually kind of nice because, especially with everything going on with the world and everything, a lot of people we've noticed have had the time to actually kind of go back into the shack, kind of actually have the chance to take and dig into doing certain things on there. So we've been, answering a lot of great questions about our radios themselves. I've been working extensively with different people who have purchased our DR2X and our DR1X series repeaters, getting them on the air, interfacing them to numerous different devices, Aries, Races, usages, and everything like that. So we have actually been staying busy.
Oh, that's great. And, having some quality time to help guys get repeaters configured. It's not, this stuff is not as simple as it used to be. It used to be, you just you got a repeater, you plugged it in, it was analog, and that's all it did. But tell us a little bit about the features of the repeater.
Our repeaters is one, we tried to live up to kind of three principles of fusion overall, and we made sure that was addressed within the repeater. So the first of all, it has to have high quality digital voice, and that's what we love about Yaesu System Fusion. 2, it had to be easy to operate. And then 3, it had to be very versatile and flexible in its operations. And that's why we say it kind of has, translated over to the repeater, because, with our repeaters, they can be analog repeaters, they can be digital repeaters, they can actually be a cross mode or cross modulation, which really no other digital voice technology is out there, where you can have 2 different types of signal coming in, meaning an analog or a digital signal. And then you as a repeater owner can set it up that it always comes out FM, or it always comes out digital, or what we say AMS, meaning if it comes in digital, goes out digital, comes in analog, goes out analog. So that's really kind of the unique part about the repeater in it's of itself. What we found out is we have a lot of people now that are actually purchasing the repeaters for the pure simple fact of it's a small, compact, I think it's about a 2-rack unit height, if I remember correctly, the exact measurement on there. But being that it's relatively small and easy, can run off 12 volts DC power. I know myself, I've personally done that case where, being that it can be a full unidirectional crossband repeater, people have used it for numerous of different things. So, and let me clarify that, because after I always say that, I always think, some people don't understand. Our repeaters, you do not have to order VHF or UHF. They come out of the box dual band capable. So if you want to use it as a VHF repeater today, just simply plug in your VHF frequency. If you want to use it as a UHF repeater tomorrow for something, just go and plug in your UHF frequency, all right from the front of the panel. You don't need any sort of programming software or anything. But as I said, the repeaters also function as a unidirectional, meaning only one way, crossband repeater. So you can go into the repeater on VHF and come out on UHF, or go into the repeater on UHF and come out on VHF. So it doesn't go back and forth, unfortunately. But then now you add on the mix of how it is and stuff like that. I mean, it's really an endless ability of what the repeater can do straight out of the box.
Well, that is a great way to handle, the mix of analog and digital. with the system fusion. Let's talk about some of the specs on the repeater. How much power do you get out on 2 meters and 70 centimeters?
You're getting about 45 to about 50 watts on there. 50 watts on the VHF side. UHF is about 45 watts. Obviously give and take a little bit there, but that's high power on there. Then low power is 20 watts, and then medium power is 20 watts, and then low power is 5 watts. Now, one thing that is on the repeater, which is kind of important to note, is if you are not using, and by the way, the repeater has its own built-in power supply too. So literally you're plugging in an AC cord from the back of the repeater right into the wall. That's it. No extra power supply is needed. For some people, if you need a green site or you can't use AC and you for some reason have to use DC, or you want to have that DC backup that we have as an option on there, then medium and high is restricted to 20 watts, and then low power is 5. And the reason we do that is because if the repeater is running off battery power, you can just imagine how soon it will go dead, battery wise at 50 watts compared to 20 watts.
Well, that's great. We have John Kruk on with us today from Yaesu, and I see we have our friend Bill Wilburn says all of my rigs are Yaesu. He's got an 840, an 8800, a VX6, and an FT1 XDR. And he also has an FT10R that he needs to get sent in for servicing. So this is N5 NUK. How's servicing going during these times? How's the service department doing, John?
We're doing good. One thing that we always tell people is remember that we are a California-based company. So not only do we have to comply with the federal requests and CDC guidelines recommendations that are out there right now, but we also do have to comply with California guidelines. So there is a little bit of a slight delay. And I say that is because what we do is not only for the safety of our employees, the work environment, everything like that on there. We do have radios come in and we kind of do temporarily quarantine them to make sure that they're okay, to make sure that, if they, any sort of cleaning or anything needs to be done, because we are taking this very seriously. Once we get done working on a radio, we clean the whole area too on there to be able to, basically make sure that if there is something that would come in, we're keeping everybody safe on there. Has obviously, just like any other company and stuff like that on there, has impacted a little bit of the workflow, but nothing too significant on there. But you can call our telephone line there, our normal number area code 714-827-7600, and then reach the department that you need. We are always telling people, if you call in and for some reason you get a voicemail, leave a voicemail. We will get back a hold of you. If you send an email to us, wait a little bit. A good example is we had some people saying, I couldn't get a hold of anybody on Monday morning at 9 a.m. What I always tell people is, remember, we always still try to work through the bunch, but over the weekends, everybody seems to have questions on the weekends too. So no delays there or anything like that. We're kind of returning back to normal shipping times too. Obviously, that was all impacted about the whole different situation worldwide, but it's been Yaesu crazy. We've had, just like, people are popping on here and saying that we've had people that have been saying, yeah, hey, I finally got a chance to buy my 991 or buy the FTM 300 or the FT3, those kind of things like that on there. So people are staying busy, and so are we.
No, that's great. We have John Kruk, N9 UPC from Yaesu on with us today in our manufacturer showcase. And if you have questions about anything Yaesu, this is your chance. You're going to talk to the guy. So if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. There was a chat here from our friend Mike, KE3JP. He has a system fusion, and he actually has it configured where he's got voting receivers too. So he really likes that. And we have a thumbs up for Yaesu from WD8NVN. And of course, our Jeff Phillips, KB8ZWT, who works for DX Engineering, he's got an FT891 for Parks on the Air.
Good radio.
He really likes that, and we talk about that sometimes on the Tuesday show, because he goes out camping on the weekends with that radio. And so, Chris Mraz, he says, any new features on the FTDX 101 via a firmware upgrade? any updated firmware coming, John?
No, we've been getting that question a lot lately. Basically what it is we update and we send out firmwares on an as needed basis. We don't actually have a regular sort of time schedule or time frame of when we do firmwares on there, because we take a look and see what we may need to update, what we may need to do, what new features there are. And obviously sometimes when firmware is going to include a new feature, we have to do some beta testing, make sure it works and stuff like that on there. So there's no set schedule. What I always tell people is that when we do have a new firmware release for any radio, not just a Fusion, not just HF or anything, anytime we have a new firmware release for the amateur radio, we will post it on our social media sites. So we obviously have, three different Facebook groups actually dealing, which is Yaesu System Fusion alone, Yaesu USA in general, as well as the DR repeater series on there. So we make an announcement, hey, new firmware has been released. Go to our website, go to the files tab of that radio landing page, and you'll see that new firmware there, if we do have it, any new firmware out there.
Great. Well, thank you for that, John. And we have John Kruk, N9 UPC from Yaesu, on with us today on the DX Engineering Manufacturer Showcase. And so the tall guy, K3STL, says, what microphone or headphones would you recommend when working satellites using the FT3DR, John?
We don't normally test third-party equipment on there, and the reason we can't really test on it is because there are so many aftermarket accessories that are actually out on the market right now for all of our Yaesu products. And we could easily sit down and no kidding, have a team of 5 people, probably 365 days out of the year, testing the new product and everything like that is not made by us. I do know that I've heard many different people say that they've used some Heil stuff. They've made stuff on their own. It kind of, I guess, goes by, user preference on there. I personally, with my FT3 and my FTM300, I like to use my Bluetooth headset with it all the time, just because it's simple and it's easy and not disturbing. Even though the wife is a ham too, and my 2 daughters love amateur radio also too. There's just sometimes that I know they don't want to hear the squawking of the radio, so I like my Bluetooth. But that's I guess I'm jaded in that because I'm a techie guy,
Well, that's good. I mean, I guess there are a lot of different solutions out there. And see, we have our friend here, Paul. He says he just bought an FT3DR with the CD41. Mm-hmm. And so that sounds good. And our Rick Smith, he says he's got an FT60 HT. Great stuff. Missed my old 1500. Was a Rant ×2 finals. It's been through. So that's good. And Paul said, let's see, that was EI6FE. And so we have a question here. Wanted to know why Yaesu didn't put remote operation on the FTDX101D. I have one and I love it, but I'm upset that a $3,000 value radio doesn't have a remote interface. You have any hints on this?
Yeah, so what we designed the FTDX 101 series for, and that didn't have any sort of remote feature. There is a remote option that you can buy. You can actually buy the remote option interface out there that does exist now, that plugs into the FTDX 101D and is meant to be operated locally. It's wasn't really designed to be like far away from on there. But our main focus with the 101 is that we wanted to get a radio out there that was SDR, that actually had the components and the capabilities of being able to fully utilize the SDR. When that came out, there's no really way, even with our remote, there's really no way to really enjoy the features that the 101 has remotely. One of the things that we pride ourselves with the 101 is being that it's a great receiver, but we also do that 3-dimensional display. So not only are we looking at it, for the most part, an X and a Y axis, where you have your frequency, you have your modulation or amplitude, but we're also looking at going into time, so sort of like a Z axis. Having that in a remote, you really can't put all of those functionalities to utilize all those same features into a remote setting on there. So that's where we said, we want to make the radio itself for people to be able to do that. And that's why we basically, I think it was around May, if I remember correctly, April or May, that we did release the LAN unit interface for sake of a better term. Some people jokingly call it the HRI 200 of the 101 because it looks like a little HRI 200 box for Wires X that is plugged in there, but it's not the same box. But there is that capability on there. But at the time, we just said it's going to be so crippled, I guess is the best way to say it. So condensed down doing it remotely that there was no way to do it properly.
Okay. Well, we understand a whole lot more than we did before. We have John Kruk, N9 UPC from Yaesu on with us today. And if you have any questions about Yaesu, now's your chance to have your question answered by the guy. And so let's go to photo number 1 and look at some of the Yaesu products here, John.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. The FT3. Yeah.
So walk us through the FT3.
The FT3 was kind of a culmination, is the best way to kind of describe it, excuse me, of what people liked in some of the features of our past Fusion radios. For example, the FT2, people enjoyed the dual Fusion receiver capability on there, so you can monitor 2 Fusion conversations at one time. Doesn't even need to be in the same band, can be alternate bands on there. They like the touchscreen feature on there. The body and the form factor is a little more rugged than the FT2, and that kind of comes from the FT70, where people like that. Another thing about the FT3 that came about was people said, I can't be buying accessories. And you buy a new radio and it seems like it needs a whole new separate set of accessories. Well, the FT3 uses the same accessories as the FT2 and the FT1, such as battery, the camera microphone, has the built-in GPS, has a lot of those same things that came through. But what also did, it allowed us to see what people wanted more and more and more of. And one of the things that people wanted, they wanted a color screen. And so we did that. They wanted to be able to have, while in memory mode, they wanted to be able to have the channel name displayed on there at the same time. So like with the FT2, you had to actually turn off one of the bands by pushing and holding the AB button to show the memory channel and then the name. Not the case with the FT3. You can actually do that in there. And it's not restricted to like your simple 6 or 8 digit characters. You can go long on there. I believe, I'm trying to think, it's 12 or 16 right off the top of my head. I can't remember right now. After a while, all the specs on the radios just kind of mushed together. But we did that on there. We added the Bluetooth option on there for people. And then also right out of the box, it came set up with the ability to do PDN functionality with our Wires X network, which that's what a lot of people had been wanting for a while. We did the firmware updates on some of our older radios, but this thing is literally the powerhouse right out of the box. We have a lot of people that I have email me on a regular basis that one group is actually involved in search and rescue and doing served agencies. And they said the one of the reasons they went with the FT3 over the FT70 is a couple reasons. One, if you buy the camera microphone, you actually can take pictures and send them back and forth between the devices, and it's going to show up as a color picture on there. They also said that the fact of having the SD card in there is very valuable, easy to program, easy to change frequencies and stuff on the fly. They like the usage of the same accessories over again, and they like the small and compact form. If you actually take a look, and I know a lot of people have, you put an FT3 next to an FT2, you're going to see the FT3 is smaller. Not like, now we're talking like, very, very smaller, but I mean, I'd say maybe a half an inch there, almost maybe an inch. It depends on how you look at it. And it's just a great overall around radio. One of the things we kind of did is we can kind of combine the memory banks together, a feature on there. And what I mean by memory banks is there's not a separate A side from a separate B side. It's all one grouping on there, which when you come to program, if you program a lot of frequencies in there, that makes it easy. And then the biggest thing I would have to say for memory wise is the CAM functionality on there. I use the CAM functionality on there, and CAM stands for Club Active Monitoring. What it basically allows you to do is take and kind of a quick thing is you can take a group of frequencies, 5 frequencies, put them all together on the fly. And what you can do then is you can monitor and be on one frequency, and you could see the signal activity using the band scope on those other 5 frequencies. And that's great, especially if you're doing an event or something. So let's say you're using, and this is the example I use, you're using an event, you have 2 repeaters and you have 2 or 3 simplexes, let's say. All righty. Well, let's say you missed the news or something and everybody's on the second repeater, but you're still on the first repeater. And you're sitting there and you're not hearing anything, but you glance over and you see that, man, that there's signal, there's activity on that second frequency. Well, boom, you hit that second frequency and you hear everybody talking. So there you go. Now you know the activity. A lot of people say, well, isn't that like scanning? Well, no, not really, because if you're supposed to be on that one frequency, if you're scanning, your scanning is going to stop and hit that other frequency. You're not listening to your frequency. So this kind of allows that ability on there. And that's some of the great parts that a lot of people like about that FT3.
Yeah, boy, that's a really cool feature. Let's take some more questions here. We have John Kruk, N9 UPC on from Yaesu. And Mike Foley asks, John, may I ask why there are 2 different firmwares for the FT3? I have an FT3 that he bought at Huntsville last year, and the DSP firmware version is 7.02. He has a friend that bought a radio last week, and his firmware is 7.1. His radio is having problems reading the SD card. Mine has no problems. What do you think about this, John?
Well, I go ahead and make sure that there was a firmware update release, and I can't remember how long ago. I think it was maybe towards the beginning of the year. So there was a firmware update not too long ago for the FT3. So I would make sure that it's on there. And time from time, what you may see is that the firmware version might be slightly different. It might be like a 0.01 difference or something on there. It doesn't necessarily mean any sort of functionality changed or anything like that, or, hey, it's a newer update in that radio than mine. Why is that? Why aren't you releasing it? That's not the case at all. Sometimes there's minor corrections that are made when we're going in there that we can add right away before we do another big firmware release or update on there. The SD card comes into play, and it's really interesting on what we have found with SD cards. And this is not actually just about our radios. I mean, I have found it with other devices of mine that use SD cards and stuff on there. The biggest thing with our SD card is that you need to make sure that it's cleaned and it's formatted. And what I usually tell people to do is, if you're having a problem with the SD card, get an 8 or a 16 gigabyte SD card. That's going to be very sufficient for all of our radios on there. I know some people try to go to 2 or 4, or some people even try to go larger. They'll try to go like a 64 gigabyte or 128 gigabyte. Those aren't going to work. If you get anywhere from an 8 to a 32 gigabyte, you'll be fine in that regards there. But what I always do is I put them into my computer, and there's a program out there, SD card formatter. Go there, format the card, and then put it into your radio, and then format the card for the radio itself. The reason we tell people to do that extra step on there sometimes is because, when you get some of these cards in there, they may already have some sort of pre-reader or something like that on there that, you put it in and it works with your computer to do something. And that sometimes maybe doesn't play well with the software on there. The other thing when it comes to our software, and this is talking about the ADMS software. So we offer free ADMS software for our newer radios that are out there. So the FT3, FTM300, 400, that kind of thing like that on our Yaesu.com website. However, we make radios, of course, all around the world, and the different models of the radio have different frequency band limits and restrictions and stuff like that on there. Our software is not written per region. Alrighty. So if you're having problems programming the ADMS with our ADMS software, what we tell people is make sure cards formatted properly. But what you have to do is, even though you have nothing programmed in the radio, put the SD card in the radio, write the contents of the radio to that SD card, then pull out the SD card, and then put it in your computer, read it with the ADMS software, make the changes, write it back to the SD card, and then take it out, put it back in, and upload it to the radio that way. That's usually where people have issues, where they'll say, oh, I got the ADMS software, pop the SD card in, make all their changes, put it in the radio, and the radio errors out saying, I can't read the SD card. Well, that's because they didn't either format it or didn't write to it first. It needs For those that are listening in the old Motorola days, you need to read the code plug of the radio before you can edit it.
Very good. Our friend KD8UWF, Jerry, writes, curious, I'm not a Yaesu owner. Does any of the Yaesu line of radios have speech or audio capability, such as in the ICOM 7300? I'm legally blind.
Yes, we do. So we offer the FVS2 board that can be added to some of our radios. So you can add it to the FTM 400, for an example. You can add it to the FTM 300 on there. In those cases, you can put the board in and you could turn that functionality on and it will read out things. So like when you push the VFO button, it'll say VFO, and then it could read the frequency and stuff on there. I'm not exactly 100% sure what someone may be looking for in regards to that. If they're looking for something, we'll specifically read out certain things. We'll read out text messages. We don't have anything specifically like that, but with like that FES2 board, it can do some of that functionality on there. It kind of sounds like, that the computerized voice on there, but it does do some of that readout on there.
Great. Our friend Bill N5NUK says, I'm looking at purchasing the FT891 and the ATAS120 antenna to go mobile. Does the antenna tune to whatever band when the radio is keyed up?
No, you do have to hit the tune key, but let me tell you something, Bill. The A91 pairing with the ATAS120 is an amazing, beautiful thing. All righty. I'm going to first do this warning. The ATAS120 does 40 meters up to 70 centimeters. It will not do 60, it will not do 80, and will not do 160. Okay. So you're going to be 40 on up. But when it does that, it is absolutely amazing. I take mine. That's the one I usually take in the car with me. Mobile 9 times out of 10. Has the remote head, has that functionality on there. When you're using the ATAS120, all you're going to do, Bill, here is you're going to just connect the antenna directly to the radio. Make sure the antenna has a good ground plane. That's going to help on the automatic tuning. Now, what you can do with the 891, what I do is actually you have the ABC buttons on the front. You can actually reprogram those. So what I do with mine is I actually have mine as the tune. So it's an auto tune. And then I have an up arrow and a down arrow. So what that does is that when you're using the 891, so let's say you hop in the car, you want to do 20 meters. Okay. Turn it to the frequency you want, then you hit the tune button. What that ATAS120 is going to do is it's going to go with the radio. The radio is going to go ahead and key up on very, very, very low power. It's going to take a look at the SWR. And what you'll see is your ATAS120 start to go up on its own, and it may even go back down. And what that's going to do is it's going to go and look for the best SWR on that area. And when it finds an SWR like 1.9 to 1 or lower, boom, it's going to stop there. Now, why do I have the up-down arrows? The up-down arrows that I also programmed there allows me to manually move the ATAS120 up or down. So I can actually fine-tune some things on there. But what I like about it is that when you tune to a certain frequency, the ATAS, when the radio's in ATAS mode, so you're going to have to actually go in there and switch it to ATAS mode on there. And it tells you in the instructions, very simple, very easy. When it goes in there, it will start to build a memory for your certain frequencies. So sometimes I like to listen to 14.3. I turn to 14.3. I hit tune instantly. The radio knows I'm in ATAS mode. Boom. Hey, I've tuned to 14.3 before, and you'll just see it go boot or where's that, and it goes done. It's like super instantaneous tuning. So, I mean, I love it. We talked a little bit about parks on the air, Tim, there at the beginning there. That's what I take to do my parks on the air. I take a little tripod from a camera thing. I actually have a Diamond K400 mount that works good because it's like a PL259 SO239 connector on the ATAS120. Screw it right there. I have a large pizza pan, and then I run out my ground radios from there, and I'm set to go. And I love it. Bill, I think you'll love it too.
Oh, that's great. And thanks for the tips on the tripod and so forth, and getting some radios out. That makes a big, big difference.
Oh, it does. It does.
Let's see. Jeff KB8SXK says the FTDX101MP is a great radio, and DX Engineering, it's a good pair for DX Engineering and Yaesu. And Let's see, K3LR said, I sold all my Yaesus. Time to buy some new ones. Well, we can help you with that.
Yeah,
you know?
I can make the recommendations, and Tim, you can help facilitate that. It will work out great. Another great pairing.
Yep. And Bill Carter says he loves his FT3. And Steve asked, what is the turnaround time to have the 300 hertz CW roofing filter installed in a 101D? And what is the best way to approach it?
Good question, Steve. The best thing that I would suggest doing right now is to call and talk to our customer service department in there. So call our office number, area code 714-827-7600. The biggest thing that would be the holdup time is if we have the filter in stock. That would be the biggest holdup time. Installation time is not that long. Pre-COVID days, we were usually doing from receipt of radio to back in your hands, depending on where you were located in the United States, lower 48 states here, was about maybe a week to 2 weeks, worst case. But right now, I would just call into the office there and then just see if the filter's available, and if not, what exactly would be the turnaround time. They'll take care of all that for you, get it all processed. We have you ship it to us, and then we ship it back to you, no charge.
Okay, great. Let's see. Arnie says, he remembers he still has a Yaesu radio. He says he has the tanks, the FT2900.
Oh, yeah. I got a 2980.
And Zach asks, when is the 857 getting replaced?
We get that asked a lot and stuff like that. All I can say is that we are always still in research and development on a lot of products on there right now. Unfortunately, in the parts realm of things, we never like to take a radio out of production. We never do. And when we do take a radio out of production, it is always related to parts somehow, some way on there. Right now, I don't have anything to give out public wise, but like I said, I can just tell you that we are always in research and development on things.
Great. And so we have another question. Does Yaesu plan to come out with an HF mobile with an SDR pan adapter in the $1,000 range?
Once again, we're always in research and development. I know we have a couple projects in the works right now that I'm not at liberty or anything to discuss or say about, unfortunately. But we always have stuff that's in research and development. HF was what the company was born on. That's why, we've had people say, well, it's taken a long time for you to get into the SDR market. Well, no, we wanted to take and do it right. We had specific goals, specific visions and stuff like that. And as we progress down our HF line going forward, as we progress down like our fusion line and stuff like that, we're taking the time to see what the need is out there. There's no sense in rushing something to the market that's not going to work or would only work in, the short time frame of things.
Yeah. So John, we have John N9 UPC from Yaesu on with us today on our manufacturer showcase. And will you ever build an ATAS mobile antenna that will work on 80 meters?
I don't know. To be perfectly honest with you, that I'm not sure. I know part of the limitation is length on the antenna and some other factors that are included into design right now. I don't know if they are ever going to do that or not. I know we get requests all the time for, hey, can we do something on 60 meters, especially 60 is channelized. And they said, or is there something on 80 meters? I really don't know, to be honest with you. I know we do make a Yagi, or not a Yagi, I'm sorry, a dipole antenna that, is capable of going down through that area. But as for mobile, I'm not 100% sure on that. Okay.
And we have another comment. The FTM300 is the best mobile radio that I have had in the past 10 years. Did a good job on it. Got it from DX Engineering, so that worked out. And here's Kilo Bravo 3 Hotel says he drove over to DX Engineering to pick up my FTDX 101MP in May. Truly a sweet machine. Recommend a second matching SP 101 speaker. So that's good too. And so, John, I'd like, we could stay on all afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go through one more picture, and then
Sure.
we'll finish up here. So let's go to photo number 2. Hopefully we can get that up here, and you can describe this radio. There it is.
The 101 MP.
Yeah.
Yes. It's truly an amazing radio. And I will tell you this, I've had mine sitting the 101 next to the FTDX 5000, and I've played with both and everything like that. And it's truly a remarkable radio. I've played with SDRs also too. I've had, an SDR play. I've had the little dongle sticks to receive my local police departments. I've played with a lot of it when they were first coming out on there. And the one thing that blew my mind when we came up with the design, when we were talking about it, and I'll tell you, I've had no greater joy in my amateur career, professional amateur career. I know it's like a oxymoron kind of thing, but to be able to see on how something is designed to come to the fruition of it and everything like that, it's absolutely amazing. And one of the things I noticed about the 101 is, a lot of people will say, oh, guess what? It is not a true SDR radio. And I will tell you that playing with SDR, no, it is a true SDR radio, but we took a different approach to the SDR. And you see that in the 101 series. And what I mean by that is that instead of, SDRs, I've always said it, the best part about an SDR is the worst part about the SDR. And that is it receives so well. Okay. That's what SDRs are receiving. Software defined radios can do things that a normal, unfortunately, a down conversion receiver can't do. But where you have certain things that a down conversion is an example, or even an up conversion, whatever type of analog receiver that you have on there, they have that ability to filter. They have that ability to pad. Well, what we saw when we were designing that radio is that because we used a good high quality SDR, what we started to notice is that it's just too much sometimes. When you're trying to get a little tiny slice of the band, let's say you're working that CW contest and there's that pile up, or you're trying to pull a signal out of the mud on the voice, on a good QSO party or something like that. Why do you need to take in any and everything else on both sides of it? And that's where we did our design differently. And that's where we can achieve and let the SDR truly do what it is and bring that filtering prior to the hitting the SDR. Now, what we're doing is while we're filtering that out in, let's say, a mechanical fashion, we're still leaving, if I say that gap there, that between my fingers is the frequency there, I'm only receiving this frequency as compared to receiving everything else on the band. And I think that's what makes this a superior performer in regards to how other HF radios with SDR technology are working out there, because it allows you to really get down to that fine point of band. Now, one other thing I gotta say on the radio that I like, and I tell people and I show about it, is the ability, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier with the remote unit and stuff like that on there. The ability to capture a snapshot in the midst of the signal and be able to tune to it, to me, just blows my mind. So I've tuned around on HF contests and everything like that, and whether you use the waterfall display in a 991 or external display like the SM 5004, the FTDX 5000, one of the things that I hate is that you see a good spike and that spike is a signal, even though you're not there. And what you're doing is you're trying to furiously tune your dial to get to that frequency. And I don't know about anybody else, but you know what fails to me? All of a sudden, by the time I get ready to do that, boom, what does it do? It goes away, right? Yep. And the nice thing about it is, and thank you for zooming in a little bit, because you have that Z axis now, because you have that time domain in there, now, even though that signal went away, where that signal was at, so if this is the line, that signal's still going away, even though there's no channel action on there, no frequency action on there, I could still tune to where that signal would be, and now I could sit in camp to see if that signal is going to come back for me.
Yeah.
And I've talked to people that have used many different HF radios. I mean, people I wouldn't even go ahead and as I joked around at the Hamcation show this year and stuff like that, I'm like, "Hi, I'm John, and I talk on HF radios." That's all I'm going to say to you, because I know you know everything else. And they even said that aspect of pulling it out of the mud, seeing that signal, right there in that time domain. Just absolutely amazing on there. And the other thing about it is it's got dials and knobs. I've heard a lot of people say, that's what they like about it, because if they don't want to do the menu system, they could still do the dials and knobs, or still hook a mouse up to it if they want to, and an external monitor.
Yeah, but it's a very sharp looking radio. That waterfall is beautiful. So great job by the Yaesu engineers. Well, John, this has been a very quick 40 minutes. We really appreciate you coming on today. And I don't want to wait 3 years to have you back, but I've got 150 different manufacturers to go through. So we might have to step this up to twice a week so that we can get you on again. But it was great. You answered a lot of good questions for our customers. And hopefully in the future, people can consider Yaesu for their UHF, VHF, HF needs. And John, we wish you continued success, and we'll look for you on the bands.
Yeah, definitely. And never be afraid to hit us up, give us a call. I'm always on social media some way, or we have one of our other people that can answer questions for you. So never be afraid to ask. And we love to talk to people, because that's what this hobby is all about. Okay. Tomorrow we will have the weekend special. That's at 4 o'clock Eastern time. That's 20 Zulu, here on Facebook and on YouTube. So we'll see you then. We got more videos, and you don't want to miss the weekend special tomorrow here from K3LR. So John, 73, and 73 to the audience, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Take care.